So there is, I mean, to me, there is like the larger question of, even if you had the most beneficent people in charge, the runaway train of technology is such that at some point there will be, a drone the size of a fly that can kill you with a prick,
I
and
think
and
we're already
Yeah,
there.
we're already
yeah,
there.
that probably exists. It probably does exist. So how do you ever put that back in the bottle or whatever like that,
Can't put
right?
that genie
Yeah.
back in the bottle,
Unless you
right?
have like an authoritative government that takes over the world and decrees to everyone, a bicycle is the highest level of technology we
Right.
will allow, or beneficent aliens coming to
Right.
take us over. How do you see survival happening over 200 or 300
Well,
years?
Mike Gravel talks about the aliens, but
Yeah. Oh,
I
really?
don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do a separate. I'll do a separate thing on that,
Yeah.
Okay.
another show.
I don't
But
think I don't think it's
yeah.
crazy. I don't think it's crazy to think that there certainly are people, creatures, aliens out there, intelligent life out there somewhere,
Oh
right?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the thing of that technology is it's not just the government. I mean, it's technology tends to be pretty democratic, so
Yeah,
that people who can develop the drones, the size of flies, it can be smaller groups can develop this as well. It's not the same as nuclear
exactly.
technology. It's harder to keep under wraps. So that's a scary thought, when all of a sudden there is attacks against leadership or whatever coming from below. I could see that happening.
Oh, you certainly,
Not espousing
yeah.
that. I'm just saying that could
I mean,
happen.
folks have already weaponized, $10 drones available at your local hobby
Exactly.
store. I
Right.
mean, this is,
Right.
so yeah, I mean, someone's going to put together um, some thinking like that, right? Like
I mean, I remember when
how to,
President Clinton came to Connecticut. This was like 25 years ago, and I went to
yeah,
shake his hand and everything in Eastern Connecticut, and there's all the security there. They had sharpshooters on the roofs, and they had like
yeah.
everyone had to go through it, like they had to do the wand and make sure you had no metal on you and everything like that. But I think like in an era of drones and mini drones and all this stuff, like how do you control all that stuff?
Right.
It
Well, I
becomes
mean, at this
Exactly.
point, you have, and I mean, I remember watching like a series on this, I think like last year or the year before that, where it's essentially like biohackers. So now, because of CRISPR, which I'm a chemist and I don't agree with it, but
I'm
which I don't
sorry.
know if you guys know what CRISPR
No,
is.
I don't know
no,
what it
no.
is.
So
I don't know.
CRISPR is a gene editing tool that was
Okay.
created, and that's the future of medicine. Essentially, that's what
Okay.
they're doing. Is that they're essentially it's like they introduce a certain DNA that what this CRISPR does is that like it looks for a specific gene sequence, right?
Right.
And it cuts it, and then this Cas9 protein, what it does is that it like inserts whatever it is that you're trying to, whatever DNA you're trying to insert into there. And so
Oh,
it's
wow.
supposed to be like a way of like treating, like genetic diseases. So there are a lot of like good implications of it, but then there's also like, for instance, in Florida, I think it was maybe like a week or two ago, they're introducing, I think it's like 75,000 mosquitoes that they have genetically
Right. Right.
modified
Right.
Right.
Right. Right. Right.
because they're you know what I'm saying, because they're
Yeah.
trying to genetically, and this has been done it actually in I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was in Martha's Vineyard that they did this experiment where they're trying to get rid of the rats, right? And
Right.
now they have this other sort of problem because that is it's a domino effect. When
Oh,
you
it's it.
change one thing, one aspect in our ecosystems or in your ecosystem, your system, there it will be a domino effect that unfortunately, because we don't look far enough
Yeah.
or we don't think far enough into the future, we're
Wasn't
only
that like,
looking at this narrow scope.
didn't Australia do that with frogs in the late 1800s or something like that? Didn't they introduce like
Oh,
they
rabbits or
rabbits?
something.
It was something. Yeah, there
Yeah.
was some
Or they introduced like
massive case of
coyotes or
that.
whatever to get the rabbits, and the coyotes took over or whatever. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Right, but now they're doing that, but with genetics.
right.
Oh, yeah,
Where
so
now they're
Right.
messing with the genetics
yeah,
of things, and that's the problem, is that we don't know what the long-term effects of these things will be, and that's why I'm telling you that when it comes to this type of legislation, that's what worries me, is that it starts off with this, very simple task that you're trying to achieve, but somehow it turns out, because people, you introduce people into the equation, and that's where, people's motivations come into play.
And I don't think this congressman from Illinois, I don't think he just woke up one morning and say, oh, I'm gonna write this legislation about this and
No,
introduce it.
no,
I mean, somebody came to him
Right.
and said,
Exactly.
whether it's his lobbyists or somebody higher up said, you be the one who introduces this.
Right.
This is what you'll get in return.
Right.
And it was
Because
all,
you're like innocuous. Nobody really knows. Like no
Right.
one's
Yeah.
gonna suspect anything, most likely, if you
yeah,
introduce
and
it.
you're in a safe district, and what all those
Right.
things.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think Chicago is a very
Is he Chicago?
they're
Chicago area?
well, it's Illinois, and
But I
so
mean, Illinois is a big state.
I
So
know,
it
I know,
could be.
but I obviously I just always think of Chicago when when I think of Illinois. But in the sense that isn't Illinois or Chicago, that's it's becoming more of a technological hub, right?
Really? Mhm.
I didn't.
I
know.
I mean, I may be confused, but I thought so.
Probably, yeah, Chicago, Milwaukee corridor, maybe. I don't know. You don't hear about it as much as Silicon Valley or Route 128 in Boston. But
If I'm not mistaken, it's supposed to be like a new Silicon Valley. That's kind of.
I know there's like a new hub like in Ohio now because of cheap real estate that generation whatever Z people are buying up cheap property.
Yeah, it won't be cheap for too long. Not with the way that
No.
everybody is escaping all of the cities and stuff.
True, exactly. So,
anyways,
if you if you Google technological doomsday scenarios, you come back with 3,300,000 options
scenarios. Jesus.
For our demise. I'll say real quickly, one of my favorite, really schlocky, stupid tech sci-fi movies is this thing called Iborgs, and the premise is that the government, they create these they're drones, but they're little they're like little tiny eyeball things with legs. And the idea is that a law is passed after some terrorist event or something like that, that every American has to allow these things in their door inside. And basically they go around, they'll just walk in the room. They'll be looking at you, observing and going like that. And the big dramatic point is that supposedly the promise is that these things can never be armed. But of course they are at one point, and then the government's using them to take out people and all this kind of stuff, and it's really fun, but actually very plausible scenario now.
Iborg as an EYE, right? Not like
EYE BORGS.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll have to
it's a
check
fun,
that out.
schlocky, silly movie.
Okay,
yeah.
Sounds good.
But it's kind of terrifying in its own way too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry. And the what I was trying to say before was that the series that I had seen, it actually talks about you can actually get these kits to do this sort of gene editing and stuff delivered to your home. There's these chemists that they come up with the kits, and they send it to people's home, and you can do all sorts of experiments. You can do all this stuff. So that is, where they're trying to figure out if they should put regulations on it, because then it's the whole thing of well, then you're only letting certain organizations have total control of it. You know what I'm saying? But it's the whole open source thing versus having it centralized.
Yeah.
But that's really scary to me.
Well, we don't think that China doesn't have whole villages dedicated to working on something with this.
Right.
Yeah.
Or North Korea or Pakistan or
Oh sure. Oh yeah.
And that's why they say that the next 9/11 attack or whatever that we would have, it would be a biological one.
Yeah.
Because that's the world that we're living in now, where you can genetically modify anything in your own home, in your garage.
And we know for sure that COVID isn't a result of that.
I don't know. Are we conspiracy cornered out? No.
Well, the thing is, that's the thing with runaway technology. Almost every conspiracy is possible. Of these of the technological influence. It's just all these amazing things, horrific things seem completely possible.